Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of A Bright Idea Podcast, a show where I sit down with entrepreneurs to discuss the aha moments that launch their businesses. If you're new here, I'm Amber Key. In this week's episode, we're joined by my dear friend, a contemporary artist from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Louis Pell, to talk about the idea of the starving artist and why this concept doesn't exist anymore. We discuss how Louis went from trying to climb the corporate ladder in the environmental science industry to becoming a full-time artist. Louis graduated from the University of Pittsburgh, Johnstown, with a bachelor's degree in environmental sciences and a minor in biology and geology. He then went on to earn his master's in sustainability from Chatham University, specializing in ecology and resource management. As a self-taught artist, Louis specializes in paintings that cover environmental issues using acrylic on canvas. He has painted over 600 paintings and sold 300, as well as participated in several residencies, including in Ohio, France, and Italy. I've known Louis for almost 3 decades, so I feel like as he talks about his upbringing, I was there. But I can honestly say that this is an artist that you should be checking out. This conversation takes a trip down memory lane, and we also get into the evolving perception of artists in today's economy, highlighting the potential for success and sustainability in the art world. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at A Bright Idea Podcast for behind-the-scenes content and updates. And if you're enjoying this show, leave us a review. It really helps us spread the word. Let's get into this episode. Louis, thank you so much for coming onto A Bright Idea Podcast. How are you doing?
Riding the wave, riding the wave.
Riding the wave, literally. For the listeners that are listening to this conversation right now, we are recording this episode a few days after the election. So I feel like vibes are a little, they're in the shitter. What do you think?
I'm still processing, fairly reeling from the experience, but, just trying to take it all really one step because it's in the shitter. Yeah.
It is. And it's so interesting. I don't know, I always try to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I always find when we look at history and just how the world has evolved, the best art always comes from pain and always comes from these crazy times that we're having. And we're talking to you who is an artist. You are an artist. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today because I think it's a really important one, just about the world, about your perspective, being an artist, working in the field. But I feel like I can't go into this conversation without telling people that we've literally known each other our whole lives. So being serious on the show is going to be very hard for me, just saying.
I mean, hey, it's real though. We really have known each other, decades. Oh, we go way back.
So when did we meet?
I think it was around 2002.
I'm screaming that you knew the year. We were 8 years old. We were kids. And we would
because the way
Yeah,
we were. And really the way I pieced it together was I'm 3rd grade and we grew up where whatever year it was the year it was. If we were in 3rd grade, it was 2003. That fall must have been 2002 or yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember, yes, that was that's how I identify the time period of my life as well. But then I just remember growing up with you, and it's so funny how you we evolve as adults and as humans, but we still remember those critical moments in our childhood of playing Charlie's Angels because we wanted to be spies, or the music that we were listening to back in the day, and just our quirks is because of us being friends.
Literally, the early 2000s was quite a time. You really just had to be there.
Yeah. So I think one of the questions that I always ask when I start this show is tell me about your upbringing. And when I was considering the questions I was going to ask you today, I was how am I going to even have this conversation? Because I was there for the upbringing.
You can back it up. You can literally say, yeah, that was true.
Yes. But tell me about your upbringing and has art always been a part of your life?
Yeah. My family doesn't let me live it down in that sense. Literally, even going back to preschool, my family remembers how I had art in the Carnegie Museum because I went to preschool at CMU, so we had like a program. But like, I've always been into the arts. Art has always been something I gravitated to, enjoyed doing, you know, kind of found solace in. I mean, we didn't touch too much upon the fact, like, growing up, my parents broke up early on in elementary school. Like, I kind of had a interesting upbringing in that sense, but it was never felt. I always enjoyed, you know, what I enjoy, and I do what I do. I mean, it's good to live in the moments of things, but, you know, art has definitely always been something I've kept to keep me balanced, mentally stable, you know, feeling good in that way. Like, I've always utilized it in that sense. And I've always found that I participated in Art All Night. That's like a local art show, like community, like everybody kind of comes together and puts pieces in, and some can be for sale, some don't have to be for sale, but I always got lucky having sales in that. And so I feel like that also just kind of supported that type of avenue for me. Like, my background really isn't so much, like, my academics followed a different track, but like, art has still always been something I've held close.
So you said, like, growing up, you had art in the Carnegie Museum, which is absolutely crazy and like a literal fun fact. But you were like in preschool, and then growing up, you said your parents separated, and you kind of found art as solace. But I want to know, like, did you always have like art in the house, and like, were you experimenting with other forms of art, like not just visual, but like,
Yeah,
I know, like, for the listeners, like, Lewis and I were also in Shakespeare clubs, so like,
yeah,
we were like drama kids for a minute. So
literally, like, the arts were always something that I feel that I was drawn to in any sense, like whether it was theater or photography or film or acting, or, you know, even like as far, even within the arts, like sculpting, the models, you know, origami. I love doing origami still, like, where I'll string. They have a thing in Japanese culture where if you fold 1,000 cranes, you get a wish.
yeah,
So, you know, I try to support that.
yeah,
But I think that even so, I love trying different things, and like, I have experimented within like watercolor and obviously graphite and pen and oils. More recently, I've been really experimenting a lot within that. But growing up, I loved Mr. D's class. Like, he really, I feel like, showed us just such a great variety of all the different kinds of art. And I would say that I found all of it to be so enlightening at the time. And even looking back, like, at home, and even before, like, you know, in my own time at home, I would say, like, you know, I was always into the arts and working in collage or drawing or coloring, you know, like crayon, you know, things.
yeah,
It was very much always something that I had around, and my family did have around me. And like, we have art on the walls. You know, like, I grew up kind of looking at that stuff and reflecting and having this stuff around me. So it always felt like it was just always something
there.
like, it's gonna be there. It's there.
Yeah.
It's always here, you know.
Yeah, I love that too, because growing up in Pittsburgh, which is where we're from, people know Pittsburgh, like, from the outside, as like a really big steel city, but also really big in like the sports world. And people only really think of the Steelers or the Pirates or the Penguins, but for us that are from the city, it's really an artsy city. So to your point about growing up with all of these supplies and access to classes and different forms of art, like, yes, you had to be exposed to it in a way from your parents or whatever school you went to, but really it really is just there in the city. So you almost don't even realize that you're immersed in that type of culture.
Absolutely. And like you're saying too, like, even your own schools, like, I feel like it didn't really matter what school you went to, because everybody went to the museum. It's so funny now, looking back, like, the collection that we have at the Carnegie it's great. Like, it's a great collection. And like, the fact that we grew up with access and the ability to constantly see these things. Because even beyond the Carnegie, we have the Andy Warhol Museum, the Mattress
Absolutely.
Factory, like all the galleries downtown.
Guild, yeah. The
Literally,
Warhol,
like,
yeah.
it's everywhere. Like, there's so many places to get that it is, like you said, this area, like, it's not really looked at so much as an artist haven in a way, but really as people that grew up in it and are from here and are still experiencing it today, like, it certainly is its own entity in the art realm, you know, like, it doesn't, even the Frick, you know, like, it's incredible, just the things that we have here that not a lot of people really might think of or know of or consider the weight of, but at the end of the day, like, to grow up with that is it's
quite the
great
privilege.
To have.
Yes,
yeah,
it's great to have. I do remember, like, growing up and having all of these, like, trying out all of these things and being able to, thanks to our parents. And then I remember, you know, we went to the same school until we were like 5th grade. And then in our city where we went to elementary school, it was like a Spanish magnet school. So, like, they would teach us in all of our subjects in English and in Spanish at the same time. And then in 5th grade, you have to decide where you're going to middle school. And that's where we kind of made the separation. And we decided, both of us, that we wanted to try and go to this, like, middle school that was called Rogers Kappa, which is like the creative and performing arts school in our city. And do you want to, like, I think the point in bringing that up is, like, when you're a kid, the world is your oyster. Like, you're literally allowed to do anything. And then there becomes a point where you have to, like, choose a specific area. And I feel like, and you can let me know if, like, this is the point in the story where you had to choose. But, like, let's talk about Kappa a little bit.
Yeah. When we were in 5th grade, we kind of had this ability to decide if this was something that you really wanted to do. And if so, and if you're good enough, you can get into this school and focus on these talents and abilities that you can harness and further endeavor and adventure with.
Yeah.
You can do and be anything you want, even if you're 60, 70, 80. Mm-hmm. But at such a young age, you really do get put in this corner sometimes where it's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And not everybody knows exactly what they want to be so early on, even so later on. I mean, some people know, some people don't know. It's really whatever path and boat you're on.
And so you actually auditioned for Rogers in was it musical theater?
I think it was just...
Or just theater?
Acting. Like, it was just acting. Okay. Like, it wasn't... Because that's the thing. Like, I actually wasn't prepared. Like, I didn't know I had to sing and dance. I just had the monologue ready. I knew... Like, I had no...
Yeah, talk to me about your audition process. Because mine, I'll still remember that till the day I die.
Well, and it's interesting because now, like, even hearing you talk about your portfolio, because I even remember you getting your portfolio together and, like, having to have different pieces and have different, like a geometric, like, almost MC Escher type of, like, piece. But then you had to have, like, you know, like, more portrait type, or, you know, like, you kind of had to have that variety and showing that difference of what you can do. And it's like, wow, you're really, like you're saying, they're asking quite a lot of you at age 10 to, like, show such variety and such depth for something that you might not proceed with.
End up doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And even for myself, like, I can think back and, like, I mean, I probably should have gone down your avenue of visual arts. Like, I mean, if that was something that I, you know, felt like if I really wanted to go to school there, that's probably something I should have just followed with, like you're saying. Like, and I feel like at the time, it was because we were a part of the Shakespeare monologue and scene, like, it was the Shakespeare monologue club, basically. Yeah. But at the time, I had a monologue, and I remembered it so well that I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to try to go to Rogers, and I know my monologue, like, no doubt.
What was it?
It was called Rumors, and it was from the Midsummer Night's Dream, and I believe it's Puck, or one of those, you
I
know,
think it was Puck.
like he talks about how everything goes through him and he like stirs the pot basically.
Yes.
Which, hey. But so I went in thinking like I know this so well, like they're gonna love that this 10-year-old I'm off book, like I know I can recite this Shakespeare monologue like at age 10, like as we're saying, like this depth and like such regard for this art, you know. But then I get there and I do it, and then they ask me to do a dance. I do the dance, you know. I'm light on my foot. I'm good like that.
I think you're being humble. You're being humble. Lewis, you can throw. Lewis, you've always been able to throw down.
You know, so I wasn't scared about that one. And then they said, like, you know, it's time to do a song. And I was like, a song? Like, and they're like, yeah, like, you can sing Happy Birthday. You could do Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I was like, okay. I was like, I got it. Don't worry. Like, you know. I get up there and I start singing Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. Okay, I might have gotten 2 or 3 words out before they stopped me. And meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, they didn't even let me get to the good part. You know, like I didn't even get to show them how not only do I know my monologue, but I know this entire song off by heart. Like, I even have the beat in my head. I can give, you know, like,
You're like, and 1, and 2, and 3.
Literally. Like, and I might have said, like, I like big butts, and I cannot lie.
And they were like, next.
Like, they're like, all right, that, thank you. I was said, oh. Okay. You know, so I knew right off that rip that it wasn't going to go as well as I might have intended it to. So, you know, I started to bring myself a little down from there, but I obviously did not get in.
But what was that like for you? Like, were you sad?
I was sad. I would say that at the time, like, because it was something like you're set up to think, like, is this something that I want to do for the rest of my life? This is what I'm applying to go to the school to follow through with and like learn more on. And you know, it's definitely something that I considered, and I weighed the thought of a 10-year-old, you know, like as little and as much as one could think as a 10-year-old.
Right.
But like, you know, like I feel as though, like I said, everything happened for a reason though. I mean, I was hurt and it was detrimental at the time, but, you know, I moved on, and I ended up I went to Frick, which was the Frick International Studies Academy, which it was kind of just the continuation, more or less, in my opinion, of Liberty. Like, it's a magnet program. Well, they begin with the middle years. International Baccalaureate. That's really, like, kind of the program and the system that that followed into, but all of your classes were Spanish-oriented. Like, I had friends that took Japanese, French, German. Like, it was kind of more of an internationally based curriculum.
Education. Yeah, that's dope.
Which is great. And I followed through and did that up into high school, you know, kind of like Kappa, Rogers. Like, this was Frick. It was a little bit more convoluted at the time. We were going through it because they were closing schools and...
legendary school, Shenley.
Yeah, they were closing Shenley High School.
Like, literally the greats. Like, Andy Warhol went to Shenley.
Andy Warhol, George Benson, the lady from Rusted Root. I mean, like, the list goes on. Yeah, now it's an apartment building. I'm technically the first graduating class of the Barack Obama Academy of International Studies, but... it's the same.
But like going forward, so, you know, you overcame what happened in middle school, ended up with this awesome opportunity to really broaden your like interests and your education at Obama. And then you decided to go to school and am I getting this wrong, but did you study horticulture or agriculture?
So my bachelor's degree is in environmental science. And I minored in biology and geology. And then I have a master's degree in sustainability, focusing on resource management and ecology.
I'm curious where the shift, that is such a shift.
It really is. And honestly, like, growing up, like, I really still had such a hand in the arts. Like, even going to school, like, when I started college, I actually had intentions of beginning as a art history major. Like my intention was to get a degree in art history, a double degree with Spanish, because I had been taking it since kindergarten to 12th grade. So I was like, might as well keep it up.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to minor in Italian, so that way I was going to be kind of the bridge going to Italy and Spain and collecting art for various institutions or galleries. Like, that was what I had hoped for going to college, which is really funny because I'm not doing that work, but I'm now a part of that realm in a way. But at the time, I went to Pitt Johnstown, and they didn't have his art history major. They only had a history major. And so I did contemplate being like a history teacher and maybe furthering into that world. But actually I was like, I've always loved the environment. I've always gone out and spent a lot of time in various forests or ecosystems. Now knowing where I was, my family growing up, we would always go on trips, whether it was Sunday trips to McConnell's Mill or hanging out at Moraine State Park, or we'd always go on hikes or bike trips or riding around the city.
That's so cool.
At the time, I really just wanted something different. I felt like college and going to school and furthering an education, we're paying for it in America. It is money, but I still felt like it should be something that I'm learning. It shouldn't be something that I'm necessarily inherently good at, or I'm just getting a degree in because, business at the time, I thought about doing business. I thought about, being a nurse or, going to school for writing or doing, just English or, kind of, we discussed, I thought about all the different avenues. And at one point in time throughout my life thus far, I've thought about having almost any job that's out there, just as anybody does. And at the time, I really wanted something different, and I saw it as an opportunity to further myself and make myself as marketable, as well as learning something that is interesting, and it's made me better off.
I love that. Because I do remember coming out of middle school, and it did feel like the environmental sciences all of a sudden had a real emphasis, and that I feel like the education system was just starting to really focus on STEM, STEM programs. And so we were just scratching the surface at that point.
Definitely. And it's funny because back then I was totally not that was not something I was too interested in. My brother growing up was really into he was into sea mites and Challenge 24, and he was definitely more of that science, mathematical, STEM. He always focused more on that, while I was more of the humanities and the arts and kind of just more in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's funny how as we grew up, we both kind of switched places. I ended up getting degrees and following through with science, and I never even in high school, middle school, it wasn't something I was necessarily the best in, but it was something I was willing to try to learn more on and get better with, just academically. But it's funny how I did turn, and I ended up finding that path and doing that, while my brother, growing up the way he did, ended up also switching sides and ended up getting degrees in acting and film and writing. And how we both are, it's funny how our parents always say that, we both grew up in such different liking and having such different interests, but then simultaneously switching and enjoying what the other had enjoyed previously.
Well, it's interesting too, just seeing and knowing that you not only have a bachelor's degree, but you also have a master's, and as do I. And I had these big hopes working in media that I was going to climb the ladder. I was going to be the GM. I was going to run the station. All the, I had all these pipe dreams when I was in college, and I was just wondering, when you were in it, did you have the same dreams of climbing the corporate ladder in the environmental sciences?
Absolutely. Like, no doubt. My dreams consisted of working for the national parks. Like, I wanted to go work in, like, the EPA. Like, I wanted to work for, I had a whole path. Like, I had it laid out where I was like, I'm going to work for the local park systems. I'm going to get into their offices and work for the local city government, the county government, work my way up into the federal government. Like, I'm basically, like, I saw this almost Parks and Recreation path in a way of, like, you know, I wanted to do research in the national parks. I wanted to create policies and do environmental, or what I felt was, you know, environmental policy making in a way. Like, I really had high hopes for, you know, working more with the local government. Like, I mean, my background, I've worked for nonprofits, I've worked for the city, I've worked for the county, or I should say worked with them. I've worked with Phipps Conservatory, which is a local, pretty
Botanical
notable
garden.
greenhouse garden, which they do a lot more of that horticultural work. But my background really was more of that, like, I did projects on meadow restoration. I did work in woodland restoration, where I would go into woodlands, and whether that was cleaning out what shouldn't have been there, that means like invasives competing with native species, or putting in native species, like planting certain trees, or putting up cages so that deer don't overbrowse. That goes on and on. But
no, but it's such interesting work, and I'm curious what changed.
You know, I feel like at the time that I was in school, when I just got out of my bachelor's, I felt that I needed to get my master's to get the jobs that I really wanted. And then when I got my master's, it felt like all the jobs that I really wanted were either still unreachable somehow, whether that was through experience or not having it. Like, I mean, you know, like, you go to apply to this job and they're like, oh, well, do you have 10 years experience? And you're like, no, I don't. But, like, in some cases, having your academic background the way that you might, or that you do, like, those do count as years of experience. And then the years that you did work, and all the same, it's still, I mean, we're still 30 years old, you know, like, to have 10 years experience it just seemed very hard. And then even when I did have the jobs that I had, they're just so competitive, and they're still not paying you adequately. I mean, you know, we might be in different scenarios in this sense, but like I was doing a lot more restoration work, and like, not necessarily, and I'm working with nonprofits, and I'm working with like kind of more local, small group. I wasn't finding my way. You know, I wasn't finding room for me necessarily at the table, I guess. Like, I mean, that sounds like we use that.
No, you're speak your truth.
No, yeah, I say we use that symbolism as it has such different symbolism or such meaning in itself. So I try not to, that's a different, you know, I have a seat at the table. But I feel like, as far as trying to find my way into this world and this occupation, and in this area especially, like, we're still working our way to getting, we're not all the way there as far as like green jobs, or, you know, like such sustainability in the workplace. Like, a lot of places are transitioning that way, and a lot of places are developing those offices, and I myself have worked in a number of those offices, or worked with in some cases. But it just feels as though it's so competitive, and it's such a niche thing. Sustainability, ecology, like restoration ecology at that. Like, it's something that, yes, it does seem like it's so nichey, but at that same point, there are a number of us that still have had that academic background, and have that experience, and have that knowledge base, that there's still a lot of us applying to fairly the same jobs. You know what I'm saying? So, like, and I'm in the way of where it's like, listen, you either are gonna, I know I'm not the smartest cookie, and I'm sure, you know, I know my abilities, and I'm not I will be as humble as I can, but I'll also sit there, I know what I know. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not going to come in between somebody that really desires, like, there are people that have wanted these positions and these jobs and have started groups when they were in middle school and started, like, I remember when I was in middle school, and I can think back to a handful of people that were so passionate and so involved and cared and gave so much of themselves, even at such a young age, like, and these are the people I'm up against. And I care, and I believe in the work, and it's there. But to me, I'm like, they deserve that job. Like, they need that job. Like, I have other passions. I have other things driving me. Like, I care about the environment. I still do work in the environment. If people want advice, or like, I help people with horticultural advice. A year ago I was helping people over at Phipps with meadow restoration. They're doing their own research, and so as a researcher that has the research I've done, I'm helping them kind of do their work within the same locations that I did mine.
What was like the aha moment that was like, I'm getting out of here and I'm going to pursue my art?
I would say a couple years ago, I was between a variety of, I was teaching at the college level, undergrads. I was trying to publish some of the meta research that I had done, and it was a semester, lapse in between things, and I was just kind of fed up with how things had been going academically with my peers. I'm trying to publish the work that I had been trying to publish at the time. I just kind of got tired of being in that circle. Like, we've been going round and round the same thing for far too long, in my opinion. Like, we've been doing the teaching, the reviewing, the going over the papers, and reaching out to various journals, and then trying to change up and find a different journal. And so it was a lot of revisions and a lot of changes, and I was just I saw that I was the only one pushing my agenda. And that, I mean, as it is with a lot of people, but like, I just kind of got tired of that. Like, I was doing it for probably like 2 or 3 years. I was pushing my narrative and, doing their work and doing my work and staying within that academic world, and like, still like kind of trying to make myself a home there.
Yeah.
But it just felt like I was trying to make something that wasn't happening. Like, it felt like I was kind of going up and upward. It was an upward battle, no matter where I went and no matter what I was doing. Like, I just felt like nobody was throwing this dog a bone. And I felt like this whole time, and all the while that I've been doing this, I've been doing my art. And I've been selling pieces at the time. Like, I was doing a couple shows here and there. And what I've been doing since I finished my undergrad, because at the time it was actually Trump's first term, and it was already off the bat not looking good for me as a person that went to school for woodland restoration and worked in environmental restoration and ecology and had the background that I had. Granted, I could have gone to work for like a natural gas company or a coal company and probably been fine and been making a lot of money, but I just morally didn't have that in me. I just started kind of reading a lot more and painting a lot more and trying things out. And at the time I had a friend that was like, hey, I noticed you're painting. Like, do you think you could paint me a picture of a beach scene with the sun kind of coming up through it? Like, he gave me a couple more specifics of it, but this was like my first commission piece. It was one of my first like real pieces, I guess, that I had done coming out of my undergrad. But it was truly the beginning of everything that I'd been doing up to present day. I'm over here actually selling paintings, actually doing shows, like kind of doing stuff, but I'm not really giving it the attention that I'm giving trying to publish this paper and stay in this academic world. Like, maybe I should focus my efforts over here and see what it has for me, because I have no idea, because I've never given so much in that way. Like, what I've been giving to this world I've never
Yeah.
given to this side. So maybe I should try and just see if it's worth it. And frankly, it has been. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like almost everything I've been applying to, knock on wood, really has given me some opportunity. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm making a difference, and I feel like I'm making some impact.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm at least having some gratification for the work that I'm doing, and I'm being seen for the work that I'm doing, and like regarded as such.
Yeah. Now, did you quit your job and then just focus on art?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of a slow fade, fizzle out, but I essentially was like, I'm done here, and I'm just going to start applying and hitting the ground running.
I'm curious because there's so many people out there that have side hustles, or they have these passion projects that they go and they work their 9 to 5, and then they come home and they dive headfirst into whatever it is their passion project is, with the hopes that one day it's going to turn to be their full-time thing, and you actually made it yours. And I just want to know, like, I just want to take a beat for a second, because I don't think that people, or maybe you do, maybe you don't realize like how daring and brave that is to do, especially in one, this economy, in two, the age that we're in. I remember starting my first job. I moved to Richmond to work this sales job, and I was 22 years old, and I was absolutely miserable, but something in me was like, I can't move home, I can't go live in mom and dad's house, I can't like be seen as a failure. And so I didn't. Whereas like now in hindsight at 30, I'm like, I could have quit that job, moved home, and I would have still been on my parents' insurance at that point. And like you and you just freaking did it. And so I just want to know,
Yeah.
like, were you scared at any point to like take that leap?
Absolutely. And I feel like that really was a big emphasis, because although I grew up with the arts, and although I grew up just enveloped in the art world,
Yeah.
but I myself was still nervous to be a part of that, because even my own dad and my own family, like, they would say, like, that's not, you might need a little bit more, like, that's not really the best, you're not going to get anywhere with that, like, that's kind of been the
Yeah,
way
it's like
that we've looked at art.
the starving artist mentality.
Exactly. Like, that's how we've grown up. I mean, the world just looks at that. We all know the starving artist, like, and I know that I could be making more money doing other things, and I know that I could be doing anything. For some reason, I just feel like this has been something that has been around me for so long, and I haven't like regarded it for what it is. And now that I am regarding it for what it is, I feel like there's no other, this is what I should be doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Now, but I still feel nervous, and I still get, in my opinion, and what I keep even just echoing around is, like, you're going to have problems, you're going to have economic strife, you're going to have issues no matter what you do. No matter what occupation you have, no matter how much money you make every year, you're probably going to have some sense of urgency, trouble, issues, whatever.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm in a place right now, I want to strive, and I see how I want to get better in certain areas, and I know how I want to make more money in other ways and different avenues, but staying within my, realm. I still feel like this is the best thing for me.
All right, guys, can I get a little personal with you real quick? A few months ago, I turned 30 years old, the big 3-0. My whole life, I've loved birthdays. I love big parties and new memories with friends and family and opportunities. I never really thought about the number or what the next year could look like until this year, when something about turning 30 stopped me in my tracks, and I decided it was time to get a little serious. I started to reevaluate a lot of things in my life. What I wanted to do with my time, what I wanted to achieve in my personal life, what kind of woman I wanted to become. And I thought to myself, one of the first things I need to do is get my money right. Gratefully, I grew up in a household where we had conversations about money around the dinner table. Discussions about the stock market, debt, 401k, financial independence. No topic was off limits. I thought I was in a good place managing my own money until I started planning my future, and I had no clue where to begin. This made me turn to a financial advisor. Working with a financial advisor has been an enlightening journey that has brought me incredible value in more ways than I initially anticipated. Having a dedicated advisor taught me a discipline around finances that I hadn't experienced before, challenging me to prioritize my goals and align my spending with what truly matters. Having someone guide me through complex financial decisions has been far more beneficial than trying to handle everything myself. With a financial advisor's expertise, I've been able to approach financial independence with clarity and confidence, knowing that I have a trusted partner who understands my aspirations and can help me make informed choices. Chosen Advisory Group caters to the ambitious, the established mid-career professionals, and those on the cusp of retirement who recognize the dedication required to attain financial independence. With their experience and clear professional guidance, you can transform your financial goals into a reality. Life is stressful. Money should not be. Begin your journey to financial clarity. You can schedule your complimentary consultation at www.chosenadvisorygroup.com today.
I was reading an article recently that said the idea of a starving artist is no more. Do you agree?
I would agree, because I feel like it's really, I mean, I hate to say, like, it's all in what you do, and it's all in, like, your initiative for what you want for yourself. I know where I can and can't do certain things. Like, I have had experience now with international shows, so, like, I know to a certain extent there's a certain feasibility for me to be a part of international exhibitions, because sometimes that might not economically be there for me. Like, yep. Yes, I can get into the show, and yes, I can get my art there, and yeah, my stuff might be well received over there, but am I going to get it sold? Is it going to get a turnaround? Am I getting hit up from galleries? Do I have other people over there following me and asking me for other work that I've done? You know what I mean? Like, I have had these things fairly happen ever so often. You can't just harbor your finances and say, like, well, I don't want to apply to that because that's just too much money. Like, I understand, believe me, like, sometimes the bill up front might seem daunting because it's so much, but at the end of the day, what you get out of that because you participate in that might be triple that, because, you know, like, I might have to pay $1,000 to set up an event to be in a gallery for a month, but I know that by being in that certain gallery and by being in that place, I'm going to have exposure to a variety of people, whether they're gallery owners or people that are buying art or just your everyday person. You know, like, I'm going to have exposure, and that exposure,
I think what you're referring to is like the business side of the art industry as well. And that's something that even me, who is, and I think your story, the reason I wanted to have you on the show too, is because it's so unique. Like, having come from a traditionally trained, formally trained background as an artist, like I was, and you like didn't go to an art school, but you are like in this world and are learning the business side. I was a formally trained artist, and they didn't teach me the business side of the industry either. But I think that, like, it now in this time is like no better time to be an artist because of the access, the resources, the social media. You can repurpose paintings as prints. Like the world is literally yours right now. And like, I just wanted you to like touch on that a bit.
And literally to that point, it almost is difficult because there's so much that you kind of have to keep up with.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to deep dive on all those things, like, in my opinion, it's good to be a part of all that stuff and have a hand in everything.
Do you think that makes you less creative, though, when you have to wear all of those hats? Like, does that bother you?
It's a give and take. I feel like there are times that I feel very overwhelmed where I might, not right now, but presently, I need to email like 3 different galleries. I need to hit up 2 different artists. I need to hit up, again, 2 different people for commissions. Like, like, it's constant.
You're running a business.
But really what I try to do now is like I'm doing shows and like I'm trying to wrap people in that I know and that I know are out here doing their work and doing their art and might not be exposing themselves in the way that I feel like they should, or, you know, getting the opportunities that they might not even know how to set up shows or how to be a part of a show. And so I'm trying to like kind of rope people in that I know, that I'm familiar with and in their work, so that, you know, I'm doing collaborative shows with people around here that are local and just as trying to get into it just as much as I am, you know.
You're building your network for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I have that show in January, then I have that show in March that is going to be in New York in Tribeca, and then I go to France for a 2-week residency.
Dude, I'm so jealous of your life.
March and April. But then I'm still like, I'm trying to get the rest of the year. Like I'm planning out, like I'm the one reaching out to galleries and saying like, hey, how do you set up your events? And like, I'm not signed to any specific gallery myself. So I have the feasibility to go anywhere I want. Like I can have shows all over the city if I want.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I have to go to one gallery to show all my stuff.
Yeah.
Which is the case for some people that are like signed to certain galleries. Like they'll only show at the galleries that they're signed with, which is kind of where I'm heading towards, or where I guess I would like to head towards. But with what I'm doing right now, I work a lot in acrylic. So a lot of the work that I do, I produce fairly fast. I kind of get things going, you know. Yeah. Not to say I'm speeding through paintings or like rushing anything, but like the dry time is much quicker than oil. Like I could paint something in a day. This painting behind me, I did probably in a day. And it's just that something like you can get a lot more done in that way. So I have a lot more to show in that sense, where I can show you different stuff, because oil wise, it might take 3 days to just let something dry that I painted in 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't touch on that in the interview about what medium that you are primarily using. You're a painter.
Yes. So I love sketching. I love, you know, kind of giving that background base layout, like map things out a bit. But ultimately, painting is it. That is where I spend every waking second.
I love it. I love it so much.
Which I love. I honestly, it's so crazy. I didn't think I'd have such a connection to it, but I feel that, like, yeah, I love painting.
And your space is amazing too, because you like paint out of your bedroom, right?
Yes.
Primarily.
I love and I hate it all in the same time. Like, I do wish I had like a studio space sometimes, so that when it comes to painting oils or having bigger pieces, like I really would love to paint big pieces. I just think that would be sick. Like I want to. I'm getting there, but yeah. You know, I think it also, having this in my room does allow me to kind of play around with things, and it's almost like I don't sleep. They haunt me. You know, like I look across the room and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see what I don't like already. Having stepped away for 5 seconds, I'm like, oh.
No,
you know.
I know the feeling. It's almost like when I have an idea, like for this show, for example, like it wakes me up out of my sleep. Yeah. Like I'm in a trance and I'm like, I don't care if I had 2 hours of sleep. I have to work on this. Like
you just have to at least write it down, get it out. Yeah, like
exactly.
And you'll revisit, you'll come back. And that's kind of the good and the bad thing here, because it's like I'm saying, I'm never without it. Like it's constantly right there. So it's, you know, I'm constantly looking at what I would like to do next and what I have in store to come. But I also am seeing what I have to look at presently. So it's not like I like to have things. I like to prepare myself for the next thing. I don't like to necessarily like finish a painting and then say, okay, I'm thinking about painting like these 3 different ideas. Like, I don't know which one to pick. Like, I'll have that picked, sketched out, ready to go before I'm even done with the one that's on the easel. You know, like right now I have like 6 or 7 paintings that I know exactly what's coming next. You know, like I know what I'm doing, but that's because I have the shows that I have. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to get ready for these and make sure everything's in store.
What advice would you have for people wanting to do art full time, and like how should they be thinking about entrepreneurship?
So I would say that from an entrepreneurial perspective as an artist, it is best to have, because that's the thing, whether you're actually participating in shows or trying to just sell stuff, like I feel that you're gonna need a resume, the CV, a bio, and a statement. Like you can forget just looking at any of that. Like, and I say that because if you're applying to stuff, you're gonna need those things. Whether it's reaching out to a gallery and asking them like, hey, I want to show my stuff, like you need to show them those things. Yeah. If you're applying to residencies, that's the stuff they want to see. If you're applying to jobs within that field, that's the stuff they want to see. Like a portfolio is important. You need to have work on lock. You need to have reserves. You know, in my opinion, it's good to have a lot. But
yeah,
the work and having those 4 things really set you up for the best success. Like, because whether you have a website, having a website doesn't really make or break you. Social media is nice to have. Like, that's a good place for a portfolio. Like, that's a good place for you to show everything that you do, whether it's sketches or, you know, pieces before you painted them, like kind of that setup, you know, like just showing your layout.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Yeah, like just the process of things. Like people love that stuff. Like it's good to have social media, almost as great as it is to have those other things. Like, because most of the time when you're applying to stuff, they're not going to ask you necessarily to upload pictures of your pieces or your stuff. You know, whether you do like handcrafts, like you might do crocheting, or you might do foraging and like sewing it all together, or you might do mobiles and like sculpture.
Right.
Like all of those things, like if you're not showing it somewhere, like you gotta have it represented somewhere. Because otherwise nobody sees it. Nobody's, you know, like, even if myself, like, I don't do TikTok. I don't have videos that I put up of me painting pictures. Like, I have friends and family that have said, like, you really should start recording yourself, just showing a process and, like, you know, show your face. Like, as if that's selling anything. But even so, like, people do think that. People say that, like, whether it's even residencies I've been a part of, like, they say, like, even social media, they don't want to see you hanging out with your friends or going on your trips. Like, if it's your art account, they want to see your art. They want to see your palettes. They want to see your process. They want to see your studio. Like, they want to see you. Like, they want to see you doing your art. Like, they do want those things. Like, that's important to have. Those are all, I mean, I'll say a website, it's great. It's good to have that because that's where everything is. Like, whether it's your art, your statements, your events, like it's all kind of there. So it is good to have a website, but it's not everything.
Okay.
Like, I've operated without a website the past like 7 years, I guess.
Would you say that you have made most of your money through applying to these art shows or like selling on your own?
I would say that I have made the most through commissions.
Okay. And for the listeners that may not know what that is.
So that's really somebody coming up to me or contacting me, whether that's through Instagram or email or through the website, and just saying like, hey, I've seen your work. You know, this is something I would like to get painted. Would you be willing to do that? Do you do that? How much do you charge? You know, like that. Yeah. We go back and forth. We discuss that, but that's a commission, and that happens. That happens. I mean, that's how I would say I get the most consistent money, because that's how, like, it's people legitimately saying they like your style of what you do. They see what you do. They might have a painting, or not a painting, but like a photo of their dog or their house or their landscape or themselves that they're like, hey, I want this painted. And I'm like, okay, you know.
So commissions. Okay.
But that could happen. I like the way that even gets about is through exposing yourself. So like they won't see that stuff. They won't even know who I am unless they might have come through a gallery show that I had done, or they saw me through Instagram, like a tag, like I might have been tagged on something, or somebody that they know might have come through the gallery and shared a picture of mine and tagged me, and so they followed my account. Like I've had that happen where like they've come to a show and they're like, my friend saw this, and you know.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to have, like, or even sitting outside, like, I mean, sitting on a corner of a street. Like I go to a neighborhood around here, Shady Side, right off of Walnut Street. My mom owns her own clothing store, but I can sit, because since it's her property technically, like her sidewalk, I can sit out front and I'll sell pieces. Like it might be stuff that I'm just trying to get rid of, or, you know, pieces I've had for a while, or things that might have just been experimental to me that I just don't
Shout out to Pursuits.
Yeah, so like I just sit out there and I sell stuff really discountedly, but then at the same time I give out my card a lot, so people will think of me around Christmas and say like, hey,
totally,
I have this idea for a gift, like, could you help me out? Like it just, sometimes it just happens that it's through getting out there and showing yourself that people come to you, you know?
Yeah. Thank you so much for like going through like that detail of how you are putting yourself out there and how you're also making money, as this is like your business now. I want to like shift gears a little bit to talk about some of your successes that you've had as an artist, and then talk to us about what you have coming up in the future.
Totally. Yeah, so I would say that, you know, since I've been really doing what I'm doing presently, and painting how I've been painting within the past, like since 2017, I've really kind of found my way. I've been learning and I've been going with it. So, you know, I just try to remember, you know, it's all growth. It's all stepping stones to where we're the next painting, you know.
Yeah.
Each painting is a stepping stone to the next. But I have been grateful and very humble to have won various awards, and gotten into a variety of different societies.
I think your story is just showing that like you can, like, this is possible. Like you can definitely make a living in this space, and not only make a living, but you can be awarded and celebrated for your hard work.
Absolutely. You just really have to, it's because sometimes with people, and especially artists, like you get scared or nervous about showing stuff, or like just sharing things in general. Like, I mean, I just shared the 9 paintings I did in Sardinia yesterday, and honestly it took me like 3 weeks to put those 9 paintings up, because for one thing I didn't know how I was going to format posting it.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's just sometimes you get nervous about your work and how your work can be perceived, and how
Totally.
like sometimes you just get apprehensive to that. And my best advice is, like, everybody's apprehensive, even myself. Like, I've been doing all of what I'm doing, and I still get nervous about sharing stuff and like putting stuff up and like, you know, doing all of that. But at the end of the day, it's like, just no, people care, but you got to remember, like, just do it. Like, just share it, apply, you know, do what you think you got to do, because whatever you do is what you know, not to say you're meant to do, or, you know, what you're going to do, you're going to do anyway. But like, you know, it all works out in what you're supposed to be doing and what you're going to do. And you got to remember why you're doing certain things, and like, you know, just keep trying, just keep, you know, keep on keeping on.
I love it. I feel like that is like the perfect way to end this interview. But before I let you go, I want people to know how they can find you and support you.
Yes, feel free to check out my website at The Louvre, That's THELEWV.
Shut up. That's so perfect.
That's my website. But then my Instagram is at Pell Lewis. That's all one word. It's all undercase. That's generally how you can see most of the stuff that I'm doing and the stuff I'm posting and my events and all that good stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on to this show. Like, I don't think you understand like how much I appreciate your willingness to like talk about your journey, but also like being able to see like where you've started to where you are now. Like, I just have such an appreciation for you, and just like, I'm so glad that you're my friend, and I can't wait to like tell everyone about this episode.
I'm honored that you even wanted me to be on this, that you even picked me, that you chose to talk to me.
Absolutely.
I feel like shit.
Yeah, you got to remember like where it's funny too, because like some days I feel like I can see you like petting your cat next to you, so I'm using this cat analogy, but some days I really do feel, I had Basil like a second, I was like, and then he walked away, I was trying to show you, but I just feel some days like I have lived 9 lives, and like we go through so many phases in our lives, and recently I've been really thinking about like who I am at my core, and I've been thinking about the people who made me who I am today, and like I just thought about you and all the memories that we've had, and so I was like, have to have Lewis on the show, like I have to.
I'm honored. I'm honored. I can tell you that.
Yes. Before I let you go, let's do a rapid fire game so people can know a little bit more about you than they already do know.
Okay.
A person you would want to eat dinner with, dead or alive.
Shouldn't be that difficult.
Oh my God, hi cutie. Wait, which one is this?
This is Apollo.
Apollo! What's up? I'm done.
He just wants to sit.
What a cute, chunky little cat.
Dead or alive? I think the most interesting might be like John Seeger Sargent. We'll go with an artist.
Okay.
I think that'd be pretty beneficial. If I had to pick a family member, probably my Aunt Carol or my Aunt Ange. Say hi to them again. It'd be pretty nice.
That'd be awesome.
Or meet my grandmother. I've lost a lot of people, so we can.
How about we just invite everyone to dinner?
Yeah, we just should have a sauce dinner.
Totally.
Everyone's welcome.
Yes. And last song you listen to. Don't cheat either.
Well, I'm so bad with names. I'm like, what was that called? It was, it's called The Child by Alex Gopher.
What's the genre?
It was like it's an electronic remix of Billie Holiday's The Child.
Okay. Biggest fear?
Bats.
What? You said that with no hesitation.
I
haven't seen a bat in years. I didn't even know they were still around.
Oh yeah, they are. Actually, they're having a huge problem environmentally. They have like a white nose syndrome epidemic.
Okay.
Which,
what does that mean?
It infects the external tissue of the bat, which is basically like its nose and its hands, develops a fungus that essentially causes them to become aroused while they are within their hibernating cycle. But while that goes on, they burn their reserve fats. So a lot of them actually aren't even making it out of caves because they don't have the reserves to get out of the cave, because they burn them up while in hibernating state. I digress.
Are they dying?
They are dying, but they're so important and so vital to the overall general environment, ecology. They maintain a lot of bug populations. Okay. So that we need them, and we need them to become stable and get back up. I just don't like them.
Yeah, they're just they're freaking scary.
Yeah.
The bats. The frickin' bats.
Bats. And I've had one in my bedroom, so I've been very, not good for me.
No, not good at all. Okay, and last one. Favorite childhood memory?
I guess just hanging out with you.
Wait, do you have a specific time? Yeah, we've had so many good memories.
I was like, there's so many. I mean, I feel like childhood overall was a good childhood generally, but I love going to the beach every year also. Yeah. Like thinking back, like if I have to pick a specific time or a specific event that I can notably say, like I would say, I guess, going to the beach. Like,
yeah.
You can't take the boy out of the Jersey Shore, like.
Literally. My mom's from Jersey, so I get it. I got a little bit of it in me too.
the beach is calling.
The beach is always calling.
Beach is always.
Lewis, this was so great. Thank you. Thank you for everything. No, this was like such a great conversation.
Well, thank you. Honestly, it was great talking, just catching up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, best of luck with everything. And thanks for coming on A Bright Idea.
Absolutely.
That's it for this week's episode of A Bright Idea podcast. Today's guest was Lewis Pell, a contemporary artist from Pittsburgh. Lewis's pieces are for sale and can be bought through his website at THELEWV.com or through his Instagram page at Pell Lewis. That's PELLLEWIS. He's also in a group art exhibition in New York City on March 20th through the 25th at the Holy Art Gallery at 72 Warren Street, New York, New York. Details are on his website. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at A Bright Idea Podcast for updates. And if there's a topic or guest you'd like to hear from next, drop us a message. As always, thanks for listening. Until next time, I'm Amber Key.